If Kansas State wants to get back to Arlington, they have a tough task ahead. And I'm not just talking week 0 this week against Iowa State. I'm talking about all 12 games. Let's rank them right here. I'm Locked On Kansas State.
You are Locked On Kansas State, your daily podcast on the Kansas State Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Christian Rauh, and thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen every single day. Welcome back to my everydayers. We are counting the days to Saturday because this Saturday, Iowa State, Kansas State, Dublin, Ireland. I'm already seeing some folks share pictures of their Ireland experience so far. It's exciting. I wish I was there. But either way, I'm holding down the back, holding the home front down here to get ready for the game in week 0. We got lots to talk about in this episode today. I want to break down every single game on the schedule from 12 to 1, the most important games for Kansas State. And then we're going to end up talking about what it truly will take for Kansas State to return to Arlington for the first time since 2022. And of course, the first time for Avery Johnson, the first time for Matt Wells, first time for this brand new offense. We're going to dig into all of that on this episode. So I'm going to break it down. I'm going to split it in half, and then we'll finally talk about the Arlington conversation at the end. And look, some of these are going to be in the way you don't expect it. So let's do it. Let's dive right in and let's talk about these 12 games. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave a comment on your thoughts, and let me know what you think of this order. If you think you agree with me or you disagree, I want to know in the comment description below, and hit that subscribe button because we are continuing to grow this Wildcat Nation on the YouTube page. All right, number 12. I think this one's an easy one, and the first couple are pretty easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The first 3 are the entire non-conference schedule because, look, the goal for Kansas State this year is to get back to the Big 12 championship. You get back to the Big 12 championship, you have a 50-50 shot at getting to the college football playoff, and dare I say it's more of a 75-25 because I do believe that there's going to be 2 teams from the Big 12 in the college football playoffs this season. I'm starting with number 12 at North Dakota, and it's no knock to North Dakota. It's just the FCS school. Now, I will say this, it is the second game of the season. It is right after Dublin. And we have seen some teams, Nebraska, Northwestern, after having their game in Dublin, struggle against their FCS opponents. They didn't lose, but it was a lot closer than it should have been. So I don't think this is a game you should overlook, even though I am putting it at number 12. It's just something to keep in mind that this game could be a lot tougher after having a battle between 2 Big 12 foes this coming Saturday. But that game, number 12 on the list, it just shows that the schedule is a lot tougher than you anticipate. At number 11, again, going with the non-conference, and I'm going with Army here. Army is not the same team they were last year. Now, Army had a great season last year. There was a moment where they were going to be close to making it to the college football playoffs until things fell off towards the end of the season. If I remember correctly, they finished very good. They finished towards the top of the American, which was, a very respectable conference. Yes, they were undefeated in the American last year. They finished 12-2, but they just fell out of the college football playoffs. Boise State took over as that G5. They're not a 12-2 team this coming season. They lost a lot of production. The quarterback's different. It's going to be a different type of Army than you saw last year. But I will say this. You're going to know you played Army when it's all said and done. If you have any type of iffy fringe injuries of game time decisions, most likely those players aren't playing against Army because they're beat up. They're banged up. And everybody talks about it. I covered the Armed Forces, Army. I've covered them for Sports Illustrated one point in time in my career. And some of the interviews you hear from opposing teams after they play service academies is, you played them. Even if you beat them by 40, they play until the whistle's over. So that's something to keep in mind as well on this non-conference schedule. It's not a cakewalk by any means. By any stretch of the imagination is this a cakewalk. But I do have them at number 11. Because number 10, and it's the final non-conference game, is a Big 12 opponent. and that's Arizona on the list coming in at number 10. Although it's a non-conference game, it's the only non-conference Power 4 team on the schedule, but it's a Big 12 opponent. You kind of know what you're getting. Now, they are new to the Big 12, new-ish, right? This is the year 2 in the system. But it's a Big 12 team. You're not getting any favors by having another Big 12 team play in your non-conference schedule. Now, I don't know if Arizona is going to be good this year. I don't know. Brett Brennan, I think, is on the hot seat. I think he was technically on the hot seat all last season as well. But they're playing with a chip on their shoulder, and they're playing with something to prove. Like their in-state counterpart, they were predicted towards the bottom of the preseason polls, at least for Locked On Podcast Network. For everywhere else you see, other than the true official media poll from media days that never happened. And look, Arizona State proved them wrong last year. Could Arizona do the same thing? I don't think so. I think there's a lot of issues when it comes to the defensive side. There was a lot of defensive injuries last year, but I think there's just a lot of concerns for Arizona, and I don't think they get the job done. Now, I do think that Kansas State takes care of Arizona, but this is a game that's out in Arizona on a Friday night. That could mean something. It's a late game on a Friday. That means one less day of prep, and you still have to do the traveling from Manhattan to Arizona. Something to keep in mind to make sure that you're fresh and ready to go. This will be the third game for Kansas State on the schedule, and Arizona is going to be a little bit more fresh and ready to go in the system because they're not playing week 0. There's only 3 Big 12 teams playing on week 0. It's Iowa State, Kansas State, and KU, and that's not Arizona. So there's a lot of things to put into perspective there when you're talking about if they're fresh and ready to go. And I take that back. It's actually the 4th game that Kansas State plays. I forget about the whole week 0 matchup here that's coming into play. So this will be the 4th game for Kansas State, and it'll be just the 3rd game for Arizona. Arizona plays Hawaii at home, Weber State at home, and then Kansas State at home. They don't travel at all. They're sitting pretty, ready and comfortable. They don't go on the road till after Kansas State. So that could be a scary thing for a team that's looking to get back on the up and up. And this one's going to be a late game on Fox. Pac-12 after dark kind of feels, but of course, Big 12 after dark. It's exactly what Brent Yormark wanted, to have that Friday night showcase, and Kansas State gets to do that, hopefully with a win against Arizona. Let's continue to finish up the bottom half here. At number 9, I have the first true conference game coming in, and that's UCF. I got UCF as the least important game on the conference schedule, and it's just because of what I think the talent of UCF is. I don't think they're ready to compete. I've talked to Mike Giddens about this, Locked On UCF. He thinks the best possibility is them reaching a bowl game. I think that might be a little bit of a stretch in Scott Frost's first year. I think at best they might be able to get to 4-8, 5-7, but I do think it's going to be towards the bottom. I think they do finish at the bottom of the conference, if not maybe second to last. They share it with Arizona. That's where I really do think that comes into play, and that's why I have UCF at number 9 in this situation. Here's where it gets tough. Here at number 8. I had a hard time deciding really 6 through 8 on this one. I think you could have shifted them any way, shape, or form. I do think the top 5 on this list could also be moved around as well. But 6, 7, and 8 were tough for me to put into a ranking system. And at number 8, I put Colorado. But they lost Shedeur Sanders and they've lost Travis Hunter. Of course, this is going to be the first time in a very long time that Deion Sanders is going to have a new quarterback under the helm under his son. It's the final game of the season. That's why I was hesitant to put it this low, because you never know what's going to happen. That game of Colorado and Kansas State last year was amazing. It was probably one of the best games of the season, if not the best game of the season. The only thing that made me not want to rank it this low is because I could see a scenario where Colorado is playing Kansas State in Manhattan the final week of the season, and Colorado is coming in 5-6. And they want to do everything they can to make sure Deion Sanders is a bowl-eligible team his first year without Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. And that's a scary Colorado team if that's the case. After us playing spoiler in Boulder last year, that's a crazy scenario, but that could definitely possibly happen. I'm hoping that's not the case. I hope that Colorado finds their sixth win before the end of the season because that's a tough one. To wrap up the first half, I got TCU at 7. TCU, I just don't know what to expect from them. I talked to Steven Stimcox, Locked On Horned Frogs. I've kind of got a conversation. They're in this kind of the same boat as Kansas State. They could be as good as Kansas State is this year. They could fall off. Sonny Dykes, could he be on the hot seat? I really don't know. After finding you making it to the national championship in 2022 to losing to us in the Big 12 championship game in 2022, that's why I got them kind of right in the middle, because I think this game could mean more, but it's at home and it's in the middle of the season. So as long as it's not overlooked and as long as they have a better idea on TCU than I do, I think they'll be fine. There's just 5 other games that are more important, and I did add one more to the list to round out number 6 that I think could have been shifted in this one, but because of where it's located and because it's on the road, I had to put it at number 6. We'll finish the top half when we come back right here on Locked On Kansas State. But first, this episode of Locked On Kansas State is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football, of course, isn't far behind. Just a few more days, folks, that we get to see the Wildcats in action. So whether you got your eye on the big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in on the game. If I've loved using PrizePicks in the past, you can talk about some big thoughts on how you think about Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. I think there's one of those guys are going to be the MVP this year. I don't know about Burrow because I just don't know if Cincinnati is going to be in a position to do so because they're not willing to give him a defense. But I think we're going to see a repeating MVP this year. And whether it's Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, I do think that's going to happen. You can use that for prize picks. You can pick more prize picks for the simple play where you can pick more or less, up to 2 to 6 players on a stat projection. You could cash in and win up to 200. Take that, 2,000 times your money if you pick the right plays. I love the flex. It's a play option that's a total game changer. And even if one of your picks misses, you can still double up your money. So download PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play that first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. This episode of Locked On Kansas State is also brought to you by Drip Drop. Look, I've talked about Drip Drop in the past on this episode. I'm a big fan of it. I use it every day. Before I recorded this episode, I chugged down a nice flavor orange of Drip Drop because when I'm on top of my hydration, I notice everything works better. My energy, my mood, my focus. You can tell that I'm in the zone, and that's all thanks to Drip Drop. And getting enough fluids isn't always easy, especially on Saturdays when you're hydrating, but with a liquid that's not always nice the next day. Drip Drop is a nice, scientifically backed, developed, proven for fast hydration. Uses the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help the body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of your leading sports drink. This is going to be a game changer on Sundays after that big Saturday that you spend watching college football on the couch. To make sure you're up and ready to go, to make sure you get that yard work done on Sunday, get a little Drip Drop in your life. Right now, Drip Drop's offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use promo code Locked On College. That's dripdrop.com, promo code Locked On College for $20 off. Let's continue this conversation here of ranking the most important games of Kansas State's season. Let's just do a round out here of what we talked about so far. The top 3 non-conference games come in as the least important: North Dakota, Army, Arizona. And then getting into conference play, I got UCF, Colorado, and TCU. That is the bottom half. That just shows how tough the schedule is, that I have Colorado and TCU in the bottom half of this schedule as the most important. But look, that's just where we sit in this world of college athletics and the Big 12 conference. You never know what's going to happen. I think there is 8 really tough games on this schedule. And that's a tough thing to put at if you're trying to be Kansas State, trying to get back to Arlington in 2025. I'm going to tell you the exact keys of what it takes to get back to Arlington in just a minute, but I want to finish up this list at number 6. And you might think this is too high. I don't. I don't think Oklahoma State at number 6 is too high. And I'm going to explain why. Yes, they were 0-9 in the conference last year. I understand. They were 3-9 on the season. They did beat Arkansas. SEC shout out. Yep, I got you. But look, Mike Gundy's not going to let this team be as bad as they were last season. It's just not going to happen. Is there concerns with the quarterback? Sure. Is there concerns with other parts of the roster? Of course. Is there a complete overhaul in his coaching staff for the first time in Mike Gundy's career? Yeah, that's true. I'm putting a lot of things to doubt me. I'm putting Oklahoma State 6 on this list, but I'm going to put one more caveat onto this. It is on the road after a bye. It's after Texas Tech. It's in Stillwater. Do we play good in Stillwater? No. And it's towards the end of the season, so it has me shifting. And that's why I put them over Colorado, over TCU, because unlike those two teams, we play those two teams in Manhattan. We don't play Oklahoma State in Manhattan, and we are terrible in Stillwater. So that's why they took the cake as number 6. But I think you could shift them, for the record, if you're putting in the comments saying Oklahoma State's too high. I think you could put them either 7 or 8 as well. 6, 7, or 8 could move for me in any direction, but Oklahoma State took the cake at 6 because it's on the road and what it starts off. It starts off a tough road trip to finish the season, basically. It's the last road trip of the season. Stillwater's a tough matchup. Here's where it gets crazy. I think you could technically shift any of these 5 in any direction. This is where I finalize these last 5. If you think I'm wrong, you can let me know. At number 5, I have Baylor on the road in Waco. This is a scary game for me. I think this is really the first true road test for Kansas State of the season. Dublin's technically a neutral site. It's not really a road game, right? Technically, it's a home game. You should be in Manhattan for this one. The true road test, the first true road test of the season, it's not Arizona. It's Baylor in Waco. And I have this at number 5. Although I think Sawyer Robinson's going to be really good, they did lose one of their top running backs just a few weeks ago. We talked about that on the channel, and Dawson Pendergrass. I think Baylor's going to be good. I really do. But I just had to put them at number 5 here. Because although it's an important game, and although I do think you need to win it, and one of my predictions is they actually lose this game, there's just 4 other ones that are more important later on in the schedule. Well, 3 of the 4 later on in the schedule. So that's why I have Baylor at 5. I think this one could easily be 1 or 2, though. If you think that's the most important game, let me know in the comment description below. Iowa State and Dublin at number 4. What? Excuse me? Farmageddon Friday is only the 4th most important game on Kansas State's schedule? Yes, and it's because it's the first game of the season. If this was the final game of the season like it usually is, this would probably be number 1. This would probably take the cake. But because it is the first game of the season, week 0, might I add, if something goes astray, you have enough time to figure it out and fix it. And that's why I couldn't move it any higher than 4. Although Farmageddon is the best rivalry in football, in my opinion, the fact that it's not protected is just a travesty. It's egregious, and Brent Yormark needs to come out when he speaks in Dublin and say that he's going to change that. I do think I'm advocating for that right now. So Brent Yormark, if you're listening, make that happen. But that's why I have it at number 4. If something goes astray, and I do think this game's a coin flip, I do. I think it's a coin flip. I think you find a way to win it, but I think it's a coin flip. If you don't win this game, the season's not over. It's a tougher task, but it's not over. You still have 11 games ahead of you to make it work. At number 3, check this out. The Sunflower Showdown, taking over Farmageddon. The Sunflower Showdown is more important than Farmageddon this year because of where it's placed. It's after a bye week, and it's in Lawrence. The last 2 games have been so close. And Kansas is very close to winning this rivalry and breaking the 16-win streak. Very close. If they beat the streak, great. I don't really care about the streak. Obviously, I want the streak to continue because I want Kansas State to be in Arlington. And I don't think you can have too many losses to make that happen. But it's more important because of where it's located. and it's after a bye week. And we talked about in yesterday's show that Chris Kleiman is only 7-8 after bye weeks. Yes, Kansas is also on a bye heading into this. That one's going to be with a lot of electric. Let's wrap up these final two here. And these probably are the most hyped teams in the Big 12 heading into the season. And I don't know if I want to say I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I understand the hype. I understand the hype for Texas Tech, and that's why I have them at number 2. And look, Texas Tech is going to be a very good team this year. They're going to be very good. They spent all the money in the world to bring in some very top-end players. Now, they didn't bring in a new quarterback. Barrett Martin will still be the quarterback for Texas Tech, so take that as you will, but they brought in guys like David Bailey. They just did a lot of really good things in the portal. They were willing to bring in and spend the resources to make it happen. Can they make it all work? And can Coach McGuire get over the 9-win hump that he has failed to do at Texas Tech so far? If not, and they spend all that resources and McGuire can't get past that, we might be seeing a new coach in Texas Tech in Lubbock maybe next season. That could happen, and that would be a wild thing to say. But the reason I have them at number 2 is, one, it's towards the end of the season. It's right before our final bye week of the year, and this does have Big 12 implications. The way how late this game is in the season, this has Big 12 implications by far. And that's why I have this one at number 2. And number 1 is the game just a couple weeks after, I should say. And it's the final road test of the season, and that's at Utah. Kind of like the Oklahoma State thing, which is a back-to-back road trip, by the way, Oklahoma State and Utah. I got Utah at number 1 because it's the final road game of the season, and some people are banking on Utah to win the Big 12. Can Devin Dampier be the answer? That's yet to be determined. Can Utah be one of those top buzz teams that a lot of people expect? I'm not sure, but the fact that we play them the second to last game of the season in Utah is tough. It's a tough matchup, and I don't think this end of the season gave Kansas State any favors. When you look at their final 5 games of the season, it's at Lawrence, at home against Texas Tech, in Stillwater, in Utah, and then you finish the season against the Colorado team, who I think might be striving for a bowl eligibility win. Those 5 games, it's a gauntlet. If you want to even go even farther than that, your final 7, you got in Waco, and then you are back in Manhattan against TCU, which we don't know. This schedule is tough, folks. I had a very hard time trying to rank these final 5. I think I did it the right way, but if you think differently, let me know in the comment description below. All right, let's wrap this all up. I want to give you my final thoughts and keys on what it will take for Kansas State to get to Arlington for the first time since 2022. We'll do that next right here on Locked On Kansas State. But first, this episode of Locked On Kansas State is brought to you by Open Phone. If you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. And think about the last time that you needed a service. If that first person didn't answer, did you wait? No, you went on to somebody else, especially this time where in days where you do not want any patience whatsoever, you have no patience whatsoever, you got to make sure that you are ready to go. Probably you moved on, and that's why you need Open Phone. So you need to never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. And the best part about it is, in this new world of AI, they have an AI agent that handles after hours calls. So you don't have to be sitting by the phone waiting for it to happen. They can answer common questions and capture leads so you never miss a customer again. See why over 60,000 businesses trust Open Phone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedoncollege. That's openphone.com/lockedoncollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. That's awesome. That's a great benefit that not many other companies have. So no missed calls at Open Phone, no missed customers. Check it out today. 2022 might not seem like a long time ago, but in the eyes of college football, it is. You're talking about players that are not on this roster anymore, with the exception of maybe like Taylor Poitier, right? That's the last time Kansas State has went to and won the Big 12 championship in Arlington, Texas. Now, what does it take to get back to Arlington? What does it take for Avery Johnson in year 2, for Dylan Edwards to be the top running back in the conference, for this wide receiver group, for Matt Wells, the first you're truly at the helm as the offensive coordinator for this defense led by Austin Romaine and a secondary that is yet to be proven. What will it take for them to get back to Arlington? Well, some of the things I just mentioned, of course, but I think the record, when you're just kind of looking at it in numbers wise, I think you got to go at least 7-2 in conference. Now, that doesn't mean anything about, of course, the game in Iowa State means a lot, but North Dakota, Army, Arizona, I mean, if you want to be an at-large bid, you got to win those, and you need to win those games to have momentum. But truly, those games don't matter. And when we're talking about the rankings that just happened, that's why they're 12, 11, and 10 on the list. But you got to go 7-2 with the rest of your schedule. And as I mentioned, this schedule is not an easy task. You have to get those huge wins against UCF. You got to get the huge wins on the road against Oklahoma State and finish the season very good against Colorado. Those are probably the 3 easiest games in the Big 12 on your schedule this year, but you still got to find 4 more. You still got to go 4-2 in those other 6 against Baylor on the road, against TCU, which again, I still don't understand what TCU is going to be. I have no idea. Is Josh Hoover going to continue and throw 4,000 yards? Is Sonny Dykes going to get this team right back in situations where maybe TCU and Kansas State are doing a rematch in 2022, fighting for Dr. Pepper? Like, I really do not know TCU. I can't stress that enough. I've said that multiple times on this show. I have no idea what to expect of TCU this season. The Kansas game seems like a possibility of a trap after the last 2 seasons. After that game, the Sunflower Showdown could easily be a trap. It's in Lawrence. It's a tough one. You could be riding high. You could be going real good on this one, being possibly 6-1 again, maybe even 7-0. And Kansas was 2-5 last year. They easily could be 5-2 heading into that one. That one screams like a trap. Texas Tech is very good. We've already mentioned Oklahoma State on the road. Never know what that's going to be. And of course, the Utah game that I ranked number 1 on the road. You got to find a way to get 7 wins in the Big 12 this year. Is it doable? Absolutely. You don't play BYU. You don't play Arizona State. Those are some tough games. Even with the BYU quarterback situation, I do think they're still going to be a good team. Arizona State obviously is bringing back a lot of returning talent. So I think they find a way to do it, but 7-2 is going to be the magic number. 8-1 will definitely get you there. I think 7-2, potentially with a tiebreaker, finds you in Arlington. Big 12 is going to be nasty this year, folks. It's going to be absolutely nasty. Avery Johnson needs to be firing all cylinders. He needs to be healthy. He's the most important player on this roster. End stop. It's absolutely true. He might not be the best player on the roster. I think I'd give that to Austin Romaine. But if Austin Romaine went down, I feel a lot more better about the linebacking core than I do quarterback 2. And it's not the fact that I think there's no talent in the quarterback room. It's just unproven. It's such an important position. Avery Johnson can stay healthy throughout the entire season. That back half of the schedule is super tough. He couldn't do that last year. If he can do that, this team will be back in Arlington and will be in the college football playoffs this season. Let me know your thoughts on the rankings, and let me know your thoughts. What am I missing? What needs to happen for Kansas State to get back to Arlington? That's the goal, folks. That's the goal, to get to the Big 12 championship. Everything else falls in place when that happens, especially in this conference, the most important conference in college football, in my opinion, because there's no better parity from top to bottom. I love this conference. That'll be it for today's show. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We got more stuff coming out all rest of the week. We are diving deep. It's about to get heavy on this channel. We're about to drop more than just one episode from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and on. Got some fun guests coming as well. So be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to hit that bell so you can have it every single day. So I'll see you next time right here on Locked On Kansas State.